Before the twins were born, Zach and Bonnie had chosen not to know what the sex of the two little cubs. Wanting some way to refer to each of the prenatal sweethearts without gender, some 3 months before their emergence, Bonnie and Zachary called one Lefty and the other Righty. The twins were born on the 5th of April and named Jackson and Violet. Now we have to wait another year or so to see if one or the other is right-handed or left-handed. Taking a couple of years for this little mystery to reveal itself is ordinary and expected. In another instance, such casual concern for the determination of the right or left could snowball into an avalanche and swallow you up in the blink of an eye. In '72, I arrived in Alaska. The first things I was trained to do was to observe the natural environment and the animals. I was a farm boy, and I'd been raised in the woods and the hills and streams, and I quickly mastered the lessons, except for one, the ability to quickly determine a polar bear's preference for their right or left side. Polar bears live and hunt on the frozen pack ice, where the white expanses are broken only by planks of ice, buckled, snapped, and laid on top of the frozen ocean. In the land of white snow and white bears, the only salvation for the armed or unarmed sightseer is to quickly identify whether the assailing bear is right or left-handed. Right-handed polar bears, well, they'll swing their right hand from right to left, and the left hand from left to right. If they miss and swing past their target, they need to turn all the way around. To make another grab at their prey. This very short reprieve is a person's only opportunity to place distance between themselves and the hulking hunter. The big bears are completely white outside of eyes and nose, which all three are nearly always black as coal. The big boys will stand 11 feet tall and weigh in at 1,500 pounds or more. These bears have lived in isolation for eons and openly insist that any and all movement above and below the ice is fair game, night or day, all year long. The great Ursus martinis frequent the ice pack year-round on the Arctic Ocean, and in the months of January to March will follow the pack ice across the Bering Sea, south of Little Diamond, and many years all the way to St. Lawrence Island. In these years, the Yupik Eskimos who live at Gamble will trek north over the ice and hunt and be hunted. In 1974, I had a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to accompany a sojourn of traditional people onto the pack ice and into the Arctic night. We traveled, stopping only for short periods of time to rest and eat. The Eskimos ate dried fish and whale blubber. I ate cod that had been carefully marinated and boiled, then covered with butter and packed in plastic bags. I could eat this fish, cold or reheated, and it was nutritious, and the butter fat offered the fuel to keep my body warm in the never-ending cold. For much of the night, we saw nothing. No tracks, no red spots on the snow, no breathing holes in the ice. A few feet below is the richest and most abundant fishery in the world. On this side of the ice, life is desolate, far more sparse than any desert on the planet. Dots scattered tens and tens of miles apart. That one will intercede with the other is only because a polar bear's scent glands are sensitive enough to identify prey up to 20 miles away. Waxing moonlight illuminates flowing streams of snow, flooding their banks and spilling across the pale frozen plains. The eastern eagle beats its wings, sending a determined wind to cover the ice. I, just as determined, lower my head and turn my shoulders away and lunge step after step into the side of the eagle's cry. I work to stay in position with the Yupik men who allowed my presence. I am no Eskimo, and without them I would be frozen and forgotten long before sunrise. The pattern of shadows seemed to repeat from dark to light as I pushed through the light of night. Occasionally I looked up into the Aurora Borealis, to see Aurora Borealis himself singing crisp and clear through the frozen air. Bolts of silk and satin, red, green, and yellow, unfurling high over the polar ice, racing to earth on crystal rails of dark magnetic light. Shadows that had been rolling by like so many notes on a sheet of music are suddenly swallowed in a black hole of doom. My guts turned to knots. My courage departed, and all I can do, frozen in the night's air, was look up into the teeth of the largest, most hungry polar bear I or anyone else has ever seen. I really did try to determine if that bear was right or left-handed. Then, in a moment's thought, I feigned to the right, charged to the left, and landed square in the middle of the biggest white paw to ever swing west of Nome. Before I could say down the hatch, that big old bear swallowed me whole. What happened then? I'll tell you, John, what happened then. I no more than hit the bottom of that bear's fat, empty belly, then he spit me right back out on the pack ice. Then spitting and wheezing and spitting some more, that big old bear took off heading north and disappeared into the night like he'd never been there. So just remember now, if you're going north and you can't keep your lefties and your righties straight, you can always eat plenty of that good old Norwegian cod. And you'll be just fine, because you see, not even big old polar bears can stomach lutefisk. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait with the rest of us for Jake and Violet to tell us who's left and who's right-handed.